Hey, it's Kevin Lyman, and we're still hanging out at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame 25th anniversary of Vans Warped Tour exhibit opening, and we're getting ready for the show upstairs. And a few months ago, I guess I got a call that said from JT, who said, "Wait a second, we're supposed to be in Cleveland the same day as you guys. Why are we not on your show? Because we're going to be out with Emery, and we're going to be traveling around the country." And I go, "Well, why aren't you on our show?" So sometimes fortuitous things happen from band people, and it's not necessarily because agents are so busy. Sometimes they forget to really double check and see who's in the same town on the same day. And I said, we can't not merge up and have a good time. So Emery, hanging out. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was trying to go back to think first year you played Warped Tour.
The first year we played was 2004. We got to do 2 Northwest dates.
Yeah.
It was the year our record came out. Or we did 3 Northwest,
Yeah.
Seattle, Portland, and Idaho or something, Spokane. Well, something like that.
Boise, probably.
Boise.
Yeah,
Boise. It was Boise.
And that little bowl, like down in the bowl.
Nampa, right?
Nampa up at the livestock.
Yeah.
We Warped Tour had all those great venues called like the livestock pavilions, you know? We weren't playing at those big amphitheaters where you might see you might see Sting one night, and that Warped Tour wasn't really welcome at those. So we found places like Boise, and maybe was that the first time you played Boise?
It might have been.
It
That was
was
early.
close,
That was
yeah.
our record had just come out that year, and a couple months ago. And a couple months in, Tooth and Nail called us and said, "We got you on Warped Tour." We said, "All right, get out of here." And they was like, "No, seriously, you're gonna get to go play 3 Warped Tour dates," and we got to go do that. And then we did all of 05 and 06, which was just something
Amazing,
unbelievable.
yeah.
Yeah, Tooth and Nail was that label that working in the clubs of LA where I came from and everything. But as the Warp developed, I was kind of Epitaph, Fat, and those labels. But then Tooth and Nail was always a label that really went out and promoted their artists to get them on tours and things. So I always had a great relationship with those guys because, as soon as an album came out, I was at my house, or someone was dropping it off by the house for me to check out. And been a while for you guys on the road, and still enjoying the road. That's ultimately, do you enjoy going out?
Well, as a lot of people may have forgot we exist and think we're doing a reunion, but we've just been trucking it the whole time. But yeah, we love it. We have a good lifestyle worked out where we tour about a week at a time, and we've been doing it for 15 years in a row. So
Do you stagger that? Is there families involved, and you like getting home to kids?
we were actually talking about this the other day. We have 14 kids among our band, so we're one of probably the higher offspring bands that there is. So that's a big factor.
It's ready for a ska band. You can create a junior ska band.
you know any other bands with more than 14 kids?
I don't. No, I think you might hold the record. I know a couple band members that might have 14 kids, but
Right, yeah.
it depends when they show up at backstage with them and they're with a DNA test. Industry's changed, obviously. And when you first came out, is Tooth and Nail. Are you on a label anymore?
No, we've been independent. So we did, I think, 5 albums on Tooth and Nail. I've done the last 2 or 3 ourselves, and been quite happy doing that. And we still work with them and do, we're on real good terms with them, do podcast stuff with them and stuff like that.
So do you look at the band as kind of like, I teach now, I'm a professor now, and I sometimes explain how a band now, that whole luxury of just waking up and depending on other people isn't really an option anymore. Do you guys break up the roles on what you have to do? Because, you come from that era where, social media was just starting to cross over to importance. Is there different jobs everyone kind of takes as in the band, because you're self-managed too, I think, right? Yeah. So, that anything's going to get done, it's these 5 people. So how do you break that up, or who decides what's going on?
Well, we all kind of have roles again. Like I handle a lot of the product inventory. I'll do some booking stuff, things like that. Matt's kind of just overarching, like he kind of manages what we do. Toby handles some shipping. Dave does a lot of SEO stuff because that's kind of his job at home. Josh dances for a living. No, he runs our sound like full time now, so he helps with all that stuff. So again, we try and cover our bases. And there's a girl over here named Reva who does a whole heck of a lot too. So.
Yeah, our whole team's in the room at the moment.
as anything, and Reva's over there, and it's my company. It's these super strong, amazing women in this business that kind of keep everything moving. They really do. As you see the front gates, it's just run by them, and dancing amateur night. You just roll the tour through it on amateur night. You hit the nights. It's all routed based on the which clubs have an amateur nights and pick up some gas money in between. So, are you still releasing music?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. We released full album November of last year, and now we're doing this thing where we release an EP every quarter. Right. So it's consistent and that's what we're trying to do.
You know, and that's what it's like a consistent flow of content. You know, it's, you got to measure it. You can't tweet at people every 10 seconds. You got to have but, artists now, it's not putting that whole album together. It's kind of staying there, servicing fans. And, I look at it as Emery as one of those bands like the Bouncing Souls, that had a steady career, that you're out there working, probably have 100,000 diehard fans. Mm-hmm. And I've always said, if you get to that point of 100,000 diehard fans, you have to figure out, and unfortunately it is a business, how to monetize 10% of them a month.
Your numbers are spot on.
How'd you know that?
We just started this thing called Emery Land, where we're putting out the music every couple of months, and we get them in on the process, and that's exactly how it's turned out. We've got the monetized about, what'd you say, 10%?
10%, and that could be through getting them to buy a ticket, going out, and you have to be, you can't depend on the same 10%.
Exactly, yeah.
And if you're lucky, and maybe out on a tour, with Hawthorne Heights, maybe some of their people who maybe not seen you are going to cross into supporting you, and maybe up in that plaza up there, they're going to come up and see you, and that's what really I've always felt like with Warped was. It was artists could come out and kind of exchange fans, and you guys come from that era where we really were a community, and there was no prejudging bands before they got in that parking lot. You guys would show up, and you'd be standing in the same food lines, you'd be standing in the same shower lines, you'd be like standing at the same barbecue. And it was a real community. And to be honest, for one of my things that was some of the things that people go, why aren't you doing Warped Tour? It was like, we need to get that sense of community back to music. And when it got to the point where bands were like, I don't want to tour with that band, and I don't want to be on the road with that band, or I don't want to be this band, I was like, you guys don't get it. You need to get under one umbrella. Brett Gurewitz said it best. We get under the Warped umbrella every summer to make the scene strong.
That's exactly the way I feel about it. It's important to understand I'm just me, but me plus these guys equals Emery, which is something more than just us, and you put Emery with Warped Tour and other bands on your label, and that's more than you could ever be. So it creates something that's way more than the sum of the parts. So why would you not want to participate?
And I think bands, and Tooth and Nail was known as a faith-based band, and things like that, and there was bands out on Warped Tour that weren't. But you know what? You could cross fans and realize you all have more in common. And I always say that we are a microcosm of society, music. It's what's gone on in politics and things. And if more people hung out together with different interests versus just fighting it out on social media, we probably find that 94% of the people in the world have common ground. And I think through touring, you really see how 94% of people are just trying to raise families and do things in the world. We can have different interests, but we're split by the other 3% on each side. Yep. And as artists, you spend time at truck stops. And how many crazy great conversations have you had with someone with different interests, or maybe even on the Warped Tour? There was a lot of bands that didn't, and totally. I don't think anyone gave you guys a hard time. There was no hard times given out there. There was always that
Less than Jake made fun of us from stage once, but that was in good fun.
In good fun,
we were honored about it.
And I guess we can quell that. The biggest rivalry, I guess, at one point, in this whole thing, when we'd have Tooth and Nail and we'd have bands like No Effects out there, was with a band called Under Oath. And they, Fat Mike likes to needle everyone. He's pretty wide range, but he found a little needle into them. And then, really, there was no animosity amongst anyone. It was funny because they would come off stage and have conversations just hanging out, but it gave them something to do on stage. And that's really what I felt. Warp brought a community together, and we found that we might have different ideas and different things, but now the artists are not giving each other a chance to meet each other. There was no Pennywise knowing who the Black Eyed Peas were until they met him at a barbecue.
Right.
There was nothing like that. And I'm hoping, and then you have longevity. You have a band like Emery that can still be out there on the road doing their things. They go home and do other things, have families. Maybe any more kids, or decided that's tapping out on it. It won't be a ska band; it'll be a marching band next time I see you guys. So I'm really glad you're here. You're getting ready to head up to the event upstairs and seeing some bands. And we've got Charlie Tuna here with Jurassic 5. He hasn't been out here in a long time. And Cut Chemist playing today, and Simple Plan. So. And Megan Dia reunion for their first show in 8 years, and Simple Plan's got their whole band back together. Cool. So it's going to be a fun day. We're going to be hanging out on the plaza. We're hanging out here at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, 25th anniversary of Warped Tour exhibit opening, and I really appreciate you guys, and I hope to see you down the road. And if you ever make it through California, look up Kevin Lyman or come sit in a class. I'm now a professor at USC. Awesome. Can you imagine they let me come and teach your children? Great. Well, thank you very much, and enjoy your day here.
Thank you, Kevin.